Landmines and jellyfish. Welcome back to Knives, I guess, and I cannot believe I shaved my pubes for this. But do me a favor and hit that like button or the government will make extra strength pollen this year, and we just did a live stream, and we went in on the last of the Ozark Trail Axis Lock D2 dropout, or wug out, or Ozark Grail, whatever you want to call it. But this is the last one I am putting my hands on. So let's take a look at what we're holding, because it'll bother you if I don't, and you know I love you. So first things first, and most importantly, the pocket clip is tip up, which is the Lord's carry. It is reversible. We have got the olive drab plastic scales, which are probably going to be nylon or FRN, more than likely nylon. But we got the Axis Lock, we got the thumb stud. Let's flick the stud. And of course, we got a little over 3 inches of D2 steel. Now that the preamble's out of the way, all right, if you guys are new here, you have no idea just how much I've done with these things. Ever since before the first video hit YouTube on these things, I have been dealing with so many of them. So, we had the Gen 1 orange ones right here. And these got a ton of testing because, well, the D2 outperformed the balls off of any other D2 that we've done. I still don't know how they did it. All right, I've seen the hollow grind blamed for it. I've seen a bunch of other things, but at the end of the day, the edge retention testing that we did and the way we do it, these things did nearly twice as long as regular D2 does. Still don't know why they did that, but so I was super pumped about the Gen 1s because I tested 3 different units. I have got 2 more of this one, one in each of our cars. Okay, these things were nuts, and it was consistent across all 3. They had their known QC issues, but edge retention wasn't necessarily one of them. So, I got kind of excited whenever they released the Gen 2 version with the reversible pocket clip. And so we have tested those. And I mean, we did 3 separate live streams on 4, sorry. We did 3 or 4. But edge retention testing live streams, and those were 7-8 hour sessions. I think we got close to 9 on one of them. You'd have to go back and take a look. But so for the edge retention testing, we do cardboard slayer, and we cut up cardboard, and we keep track of the amount of time spent cutting. All right, counting each individual cut, completely unmanageable. Totally unmanageable. We can't do that. We counted at one point and did 900 cuts in about 30 minutes. And those are 4 to 9 inch cuts about every second or so. We get very consistent, repeatable results. And this is just giving us a rough idea how the steels stack up against each other. It's not the most sterile, precise scientific test imaginable, but it gets us good results. It tells us what we want to know. So that's just a little bit of context for you. I know some guys don't like that, but it's what we do here. And we're looking for a comparison, to compare these steels to each other with the same parameters, the same testing environment, all that. It's been more than consistent enough to give us very, very reliable data. So, that's just regular D2. Regular D2 on a factory edge pretty much every time goes 4 hours like clockwork. The 58 to 60 D2 will go around 4 hours, and it's pretty much like clockwork. We've had some softer D2 from O-Knife that went 3 hours and 30 minutes, and we had some 56 HRC D2 that went about 3 hours, a little bit over. So, and I can tell you while we're doing this, how and when things are going to happen with the D2. We've done a lot of it, so we know what it does. That's why this thing doing 7 hours on a factory edge, 8 hours on a new 17-degree edge was so shocking. That just dramatically outperforms anything that we have done with D2 so far. So, we had the black one of these, the black dropout Gen 2, and that one, it basically performed worse than 3CR13. There wasn't a molecule of hardened steel in that thing at all. So, I even went and I hogged off a bunch of steel on the edge to try to get to hard steel, kind of like Alex at Outdoors 55 had to do with his Gen 1 orange one that he had problems with. That didn't do it. And I mean, I hogged material all the way off to where this thing meets the sharpening choil, basically. Just about all the way down. No hardened steel. So, I already knew, I'm tired of these. I don't want to deal with them anymore. I don't want to do anything more with them. But we had this one to test out. And it feels like the black one and this one were made in different facilities. Because the black one had consistent QC issues across the board that this did not have across the board from the group of people I talked to. Not a huge group, but everyone that had something to say, the same QC issues. So you know, I had my suspicions that this was going to do better. I had my suspicions that this was going to do better. Now, what's interesting is, you know, and again, this is just comparing this one to this one. All right. We started at a 283 on the edge tester, which is on the high side. Most, like, we've had some decent knives, some good knives that started around 275, somewhere around there, but that's still on the higher side. You know, I like to see things on a factory edge around a 175 on the edge tester, somewhere in that window. But I take that back. That's a long way off. A lot of the stuff we've been seeing has been pushing 175 to 200, somewhere around there. So 283 is already a pretty bad edge. That is a pretty bad factory edge. I got scrambled there for a second. I'm sorry. We just came off of that live stream, so bear with me. But, you know, we see a lot of 175s and stuff like that with new knives from, say, Vosteed, from Civivi, from QSP, like the stuff that we see. And then once you get down below 175, you're getting into some really good edges, at least on my tester with my use of it. You know, and I've seen guys get radically different numbers. Some guys will get way lower numbers than I get off of mine with the same edges and the same knives, you know, that sort of thing. It all depends on how fast you put your pressure on and all that. And that tester is just a general data point. You know, it's not super, super precise. It's just a general data point. So we started off at a 283, which means it was already in pretty rough shape. We went for an hour. 1 hour. And back in here where a lot of the cutting was done, we found a 620. We found a 620, so we moved back a little bit. We found a 380, and then we found a 682 in the worst spot that we could find, a 682. All right, once you hit 600, you are at devastated edge. It needs to be sharpened. There's no way around it. All right, and a lot of other guys, a lot of other channels, more well-established channels, they'll go until they get the first snag on paper and it's not cutting cleanly anymore, or they start seeing that. And yeah, you can hit that pretty fast, but I like seeing what it takes to get it completely devastated. So that 1 hour is terrible. All right, D2 will normally go from around 175, 200 to the high 300s. That 380 was what D2 normally does at the primary cutting surface. That first point in contact where it wears the most will hit around 400. Regular D2 will stabilize, and for the next 2 hours, it'll creep through the 400s to about 500. And then, over the last hour, you'll see it start getting worse, and then the last 30 minutes or so just drops right off a cliff and hits that 600. All right, that's what it's done almost every single time we've done D2. We had to stop and sharpen at that point at the end of the first hour. All right, I believe the black one did worse than that, noticeably, but we sharpened this down to 17 degrees per side. You can kind of see how wide the bevel is. We gave it a nice bevel on there. We did 17 degrees per side. We did high polish, and, you know, that's because that gives it the best chance of being good for a cardboard slayer. You know, normal D2, when we do that sharpening job on it and do that edge, it goes out to 5 hours, sometimes 5.5. It really depends a little bit on, you know, just small factors at play. It can make about a 20, 30-minute difference after sharpening. But, you know, and that, I don't know what exactly that is, but we see at least 5 hours out of that edge on D2. All right, so we sharpened this, and it went down to 202. Now, the sharpening job I did, we should have been down 150 or below. Like we normally with, because we took it all the way up to 3,000 grit and then down to 0.1 micron on the strops. When I say I went for a high polished edge, I mean a high polished edge. That normally gets us down to 150 or below, and this got us down to 202. Softer steel with a bad HRC will not go down to those low numbers, and that was the best we could do with everything we had to throw at it. I mean, I threw the works at it. So that was already bad, but we started cutting for an hour, and we hit a 499 up towards here, a 484 back this way, and a 445 back this way, just a little bit farther back. That's already terrible. That should be closing out the third hour. Like, that should be, like, kind of closing out the third hour there, not within the first hour. And then after 2 hours, at the 2 hour mark, we found a 480 somewhere in here. We found a 276 way farther back, and then we got up to where the business was being done, and we hit a 626. All right, the cuts were looking like trash, like it was just starting to go, and then we picked it back up again for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it just finished going off of the cliff. That is god-awful performance. And, like, if you see the first videos I did on this, like, I was one hell of a cheerleader for this. All right. Like, even if guys didn't get the kind of performance I got, it was still a hell of a package for $10. It was one hell of a package for $10. Like, even if you got just normal D2 performance or close to it, if you got like 56 HRC or 57 out of this thing, you still had a great deal for $10. Like, it did great. But this one and the other Gen 2 that I tested, and I would have the black one out here to show you, however, I sent that back to China. Whole different story, but I sent that one back to China. It got mailed to China. It lives there now. That's a whole story. But, it's just the dramatic downgrade. And I've seen everybody across the board, even these guys, the Gen 1s, when they got later on down the road and they released a new batch of them to Walmart, these started suffering massive heat treatment and quality control issues, which I was so saddened by. And then this is just depressing. This is absolutely depressing, and that was the thing is, like, even before the bad ones started coming out, when they still had these phenomenal pieces, it's like, yeah, just make sure you get one without the QC issues. And that's been the caveat the whole time. These are great if you can get one without the QC issues. So, it's just, if they could have kept this kind of performance going or even close to it during this whole run, this would be an absolutely phenomenal value. However, for $10, right now, for $10 on Amazon, you can go pick up a Flissa. It's tip down carry, and I hate tip down, but we all live in sin. You can get a Flissa in D2 for $10. I've got a Flissa that's $13 in D2 that I'm carrying right now, and on Saturday, about 5-6 days from now, we're going to be going in on that and seeing how that D2 performs. It's going to be interesting to compare it to this and see if it's better, but, it's just, this is depressing and it's saddening because, there are a lot, and this is one of the things that I have the biggest problem with these things. The biggest problem I have here right now. All right, like, you can tell, like, I love knives on the hobby end, and I love these things enough that I started a YouTube channel on it, and I'm willing to dedicate 7 hours just sitting over a table cutting up cardboard to see how the edge retention is, how it feels in the hand, what the cut quality is like. Like, I'm willing to spend that much time on it, okay? And this is a god-awful gateway. This is a god-awful gateway. Like, you got a guy that's not into knives, not really, and he sees this for $10 and goes, oh, that's great, I'm going to pick one of those up. And then he gets this kind of performance on the good side. This is the good side of the performance, and that's it for him. Like, he's like, oh, I don't care about knives, I don't want to get into them anymore. And, like, for some guys, they'll carry this forever and they'll be fine with it because they don't care. They're going to sharpen it every couple of days. But, like, as a gateway for someone new to the hobby or something like that, they pick this up and it takes so much maintenance and so much effort to just keep it cutting good. Like, that's not a good look, and it does damage. It does damage because those guys are going to be a lot more hesitant to spend money on a higher quality knife or get into it on, to become more passionate about it. This is going to definitely curb some people's interest that would pick this up and think, yeah, cool, knives are awesome. They carry this and they see the edge wear out like that, and it's like, yeah, I don't really want to worry about it anymore. It's just like your first real experience is a bad one. It kind of contaminates the rest of your experience, is the thought I'm trying to articulate here. So, this was disappointing. The black one was disappointing, and we kind of expected the disappointment. We knew there were going to be QC issues and stuff like that. It is what it is. It is what it is. This is Ozark Trail's doing. They are definitely not doing QC on their steel. They're not doing QC on the heat treatment on this or anything else. They are doing absolutely nothing. And I didn't even bother sharpening this back up. I didn't want to put the effort into sharpening it to see another 202 or something like that when I should be seeing around 140 to 160. That is a huge difference. And again, the tester, it's an interesting beast. And again, like, there are discussions happening right now. The best testers, like, it's again, like, numbers will change depending on who's using it. The amount of pressure you put on there, how fast you put the pressure on, all that. It'll show up different numbers for everybody that uses one. So again, we're using the numbers that I'm used to seeing off the edges I'm used to putting onto these things. So, at the end of the day, big disappointment here. Big disappointment. It's saddening to see how far they've fallen from this. It really is. They're not doing QC on their steel. They're not doing QC on their heat treatment. And it's Walmart. They do not care. They do not care. You bought it. You're out the door. They don't care. They got a sale. And again, like, guys are still stripping these out of the stores and flipping them on eBay for like $35, $40. I promise you, even when they were this good, even when they were as good as this one is, I always advised, don't waste your time driving to a million Walmarts. Don't buy them off eBay. Just if you see one, grab it, great. Do not buy one of these on eBay, for the love of God. Just take it from me. Take it from me. Your friendly local neighborhood idiot. Don't buy one on eBay. But, that's everything I can think of to say about this thing, really. I think I've covered pretty much everything there is to cover about these at this point. Yeah, and I tell you right now, this is the last one of these I'm going to touch. I have done so much testing on these in so many videos, I am done with them. I am done with them. If they release a Gen 3 and they make some kind of improvements in there that matter, of course I'll bring that to you and show you what that's all about. But these Gen 2s, just these things right now, as I said, I'm done with them. I don't want to handle another one. I've got them in my car in case I forget a knife, but outside of that, I don't even want to look at them anymore. So, all that being said, thanks for looking at my crap. Subscribers, you guys are awesome. Y'all keep coming in. I appreciate you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. We got our live streams, regular videos. There's plenty of activities. Comments, I love some feedback. Let me know what you think about what's happening here. Share your experience with them, because I know a lot of guys have had a mixed bag of results. And as always, I'm going to link up to Cutting Lacey EDC's Diamond Emulsion if you want to step your stropping game up. It's not an affiliate link. I don't make any money off it, but I do like supporting a friend of the channel and a small business. And all that being said, y'all have a nice day.